Everyone dreams of moving to Dubai. Endless sunshine, zero income tax, insane luxury everywhere you look. However, beneath the glitz and glamour, there lies another side to this country. High rents, ruthless job competition, expensive living costs, and some pretty crazy laws. I moved here 3 years ago, and if I'm totally honest, I love it. I feel more at home here than I ever did in the UK. However, that being said, if I'd known back then what I know now, I would save myself a lot of time, a lot of energy, but more importantly, a hell of a lot of money. Dubai will either be the best decision you'll ever make or the worst mistake you could ever make financially. So hold tight, because in this video, I'm going to show you exactly everything you need to know, the do's and the don'ts, before you pack your bags and make a move. So the huge plus and the huge minus about Dubai is the weather. Now, outside of probably 4 months of the year, the weather is amazing, it's sunny, it's warm, it never rains. Except the one time it rained, and it rained entire year's worth of rain, and one day an entire Dubai went underwater, which everyone probably saw on the news. But by and by, the big negative here is that throughout the summer, it's basically unlivable. So you can have 50 degrees plus Celsius weather, you can have 80% plus humidity, to the point that if you live in Dubai Marina as an example, and you look outside, it's gonna look like the zombie film 28 Days Later, where it looks like the place has been abandoned, because the heat's that bad. And to give an example in terms of how bad it is, if I walk from the building I live in to say the supermarket to Spinneys, like a minute or two walk, it will literally look like I've jumped in a swimming pool. Now, in terms of options to leave, I left one summer to go to Las Vegas in the US, which is also in the desert. And when I went there, people were like, why on earth have you come here during the summer? I was like, I've escaped the heat of Dubai. And like, are you insane? I was like, not really, because Vegas has no humidity, Dubai has lots of humidity, which is a very big difference. And if you are gonna try and stay here through the summer, when I first moved here, I was like, I really like the heat, can't be that bad. I lasted 2 months until the 1st of August because you literally cannot breathe, you get suffocated. And I remember playing paddle once here in the summer, and I literally ended up getting sunstroke and heat stroke playing at like 7 a.m. in the morning because the heat is so bad that I could literally wrench out my shirt and literally sweat was pouring out. Now, that being said, one of the best things about Dubai is the facilities and infrastructure. It's the most well-run and organized place in the entire world. To give you an example, I remember going to Mexico and basically no had air conditioning that functions. If you go to Spain in the summer, your air conditioning will break, it will take them a week to fix it. If your air conditioning breaks here, they will come and fix it within an hour. Everything here has air conditioning. You basically just go from an air conditioned car to air conditioned mall, to air conditioned apartment, to air conditioned gym. So they have the facilities to handle it here better than anywhere else in the entire world. To the point, actually, one of the things they are building is actually an indoor walking track around basically the whole of Dubai, which is going to be air conditioned. It's basically going to be like a greenhouse with vegetation and things like that. Now, in the additions of downsides you have living in Dubai as well, air pollution is a bit of an issue, which is increased by the fact you have a lot of humidity. And it's also a double whammy because of the fact of something that I personally struggled with when I first moved here, that there is a lack of vegetation and a lack of greenery. So I grew up in Surrey in the UK, lived amongst loads of fields. I now live in a skyscraper in the middle of Dubai Marina. And it's a very different vibe in terms of the nature you have here. However, there is nature available. You'll just obviously have the beach, which is actually fake. You have obviously the sea, but you can also go into the desert, which is a form of nature, and it's actually pretty cool. And you've actually got loads of mountains you can drive to for hiking, which is only like 45 to 60 minutes away. Now, next thing we're gonna talk about is something I'm incredibly passionate about, transportation. And I spent a huge amount of my life struggling with transportation when I lived in the UK, which I used the biggest car park in the world every single day, which is the M25. Now, if we look at driving in Dubai, one of the big things you have to look at here is you basically have to have a car. So you either rent a car, you buy a car, or you're Ubering and taxiing everywhere, because a lot of places you live, you don't have the ability to walk to different locations between them. There isn't thoroughfares. So wherever you are, you can have a car. So you've got a couple of different options. You either rent or you buy. Now, when you first come to Dubai, a lot of people will try and rent, but it's actually extortionately expensive to rent cars here compared to somewhere like the US or Europe. And the availability of the cars you actually have available is very small. Now, if you look at actually coming to buy a car, which is relatively easy, you firstly have to have an Emirates ID and also have a Dubai driving license to do that. And it's very straightforward to convert a UK driving license to a Dubai driving license. You can pretty much do it in a day, and then that will give the ability to buy a car. Now, when it comes to buying cars here, there's a lot of scams, a lot of things that go wrong with this. So your best thing you can do is buy from an actual authorized proper dealer, not some ropey place in Sharjah or out in a car auction lot somewhere, which some people do. And with the cars that you're buying, the beautiful thing you have here compared to the UK is the cost of fuel. So you can get the biggest engine car you want, and it doesn't matter, it's basically free. So if I look at the cars I have a Range Rover and a Ferrari, they both maybe cost 25 to 30 pounds to fill them up from a petrol point of view. In the UK, they'd probably be 100 to 120 pounds. So in terms of actual cost of living from a car point of view, it's actually very low. And even when it comes to car maintenance, it's cheap here. So you can have things like your car servicing done very cost effectively. You can have your car cleaned, valeted very cost effectively. And if I look at the car I have, or both of them, I get them cleaned in my building 3 times a week, and it maybe costs me 150 to 200 pounds a month, which is nothing. And that's because one of the benefits you have in Dubai is the labor costs are very cheap comparatively to Western Europe and the US. Now, one of the traps people fall into when they move to Dubai is trying to fit in with the Joneses or keep up with the Joneses. And in that respect, they end up trying to buy cars and buy things they can't afford. One of the prime examples of that is things like supercars. And if you want my honest advice, you are better off renting a supercar than buying one. And that's from someone who owns one. Just based upon the actual cost of renting a decent car, you can rent one for 300, 500 pounds a day. You can rag it, do whatever you want with it, and then hand it back. Whereas if you buy the car, you've got a load of cash sitting, something like that. It's also very difficult to finance them here. So to give an example, when I went to go and buy the Ferrari that I have, they were like, oh yeah, you can finance it, no issue. I had loads of accounts from my accountant, and lo and behold, because I have an online business, like a lot of people do in Dubai, I don't have a registered office, I don't have a registered telephone landline, so therefore it's very difficult for me to borrow money. So therefore, instead of actually having to just put a deposit down and finance the car, I had to pay for the whole thing up front, which was less than ideal. And at that point, I would have paid a deposit, so I was like, I'm just going to just pay for it and I'll just figure it out anyway. And I think that is a huge thing, it's a downside here compared to maybe somewhere like the UK or the US, where car leasing is very popular and also very easy. So if I had the choice, I could be sitting on the M25, it's grey, it's rainy, it's depressing, or I could maybe sit in the sunshine with the roof down on my Ferrari. I know which one I would choose. So next up, we're going to talk about the cost of living and the reality in terms of housing and accommodation in Dubai. Now, this is something that is very controversial in terms of some people's opinions in terms of what the cost of living is here versus maybe somewhere like the UK or London. Let's dig into it. Now, where it is easy to ludicrously spunk money, easier than anywhere else in the world, it's definitely going to be Dubai. Because you have speed of access to buy anything you want on your phone, food, you want a massage, you want to get fucking a cat groomed, whatever you want, you can get done. And you get it delivered and you get it brought to you. The other thing you have is in terms of from actually like a going out perspective in terms of access to the best restaurants in the world, they are also expensive. So you can go to the Burj Al Arab, you can go to wherever you want, Namos or whatever. It's not cheap, and these things that do add up. And probably one of the biggest things that shocked me moving here from a random cost that you spend money on, and I actually thought this on Wednesdays, I was at one of the Jumeirah hotels by the beach. I just had a double espresso. It worked out like 10 quid for like a shot of espresso. I was like, that's quite expensive. Whereas if you go to, say, for example, Marbella, you can get an amazing coffee for something like €2. And that's where if you look at the difference of some things here are very expensive, some things are very cheap. I mentioned earlier that labor costs are cheap. So for example, I have a housekeeper, and that's very cost effective compared to somewhere like the UK or the US, which would be much more expensive. So in general, the cost of living here is going to be slightly more expensive than the UK or probably anywhere else. The real reason I think this bites most people isn't actually the cost of living, it's that they get lured into the lifestyle of spending more than they should and then going out all the time and trying to keep up with the Joneses. There are a lot of ways you can actually not spend much here and be very efficient in terms of your utilization of the money you have and have an amazing lifestyle. A great example of this would be the app Privily, which allows you to use pretty much any gym in Dubai for like basically free. You get free access to loads of beaches, you get discounts to loads of restaurants. And that's where, like, if you are smart with your money and the way you use your money and your time, you can have a wonderful lifestyle here and not break the bank. Now, can you hear that in the background? One of the things you do have in Dubai is a lot of noise pollution and construction. So noise pollution you can currently hear called prayer. If you live somewhere like the downtown and the marina, you're going to hear degenerates and supercars driving around too fast late at night, making loads of noise. In the marina, you can have boats going out making loads of noise like 10, 11 p.m. at night. So it's not necessarily the quietest place to live, depending on where you are. And the construction's pretty relentless. So they do not stop building, they do not stop working. They're literally building things 24/7, day and night, which is why this is such a fast evolving city. But the reality is with that, you are going to have constant disruption with construction pretty much anywhere you live. Because if there's a small gap of land, they're going to build something, and there's constantly a refinement of that. But on the other end of that as a positive, I see every single day, even for example, like in the marina, where they're basically like polishing the floors. The entire place is spotless, everything is clean, there's never any rubbish. And one of the best things actually I would say about Dubai before I moved here, I didn't realize, is actually the safety aspect. So I was recently in Las Vegas and I was there for 6 weeks and I stayed in a baller house, it was sick. But it was like a really modern house that would creak a lot at night. So constantly during the night, I'm thinking the house is going to get broken in, there's going to be someone with a gun or something. In Dubai, I've never locked my apartment. You don't have to lock anything. I leave the key in my car all the time, I forget about it. Like, no one's going to steal anything. And I think that's an example in terms of like where this society is great, because one of the big concerns people have in life is their personal safety. You don't have to worry about here. So my suggestion to you is, if you are considering moving to Dubai, and we have this with a lot of the clients we work with in seven-figure scaling systems, I would advise you come here for 4 to 6 weeks, try it out, rent some different Airbnbs, stay in a couple of different areas and get a feel for the place in terms of what you like. Some people prefer more marina, some people like the downtown, people like JBR, people like different things. So depending on what you want and what you're looking for, Dubai can be many different things to many different people, and that's down to you just to find the right place where you fit in. Now, if you compare Dubai to other places in the world, if you look at somewhere like the United States, if you look at places that other people want to go to, like maybe Marbella, Bali, Australia, everywhere has pluses, everywhere has minuses. If you look at the US, one big issue is maybe potentially safety. If you look at, for example, somewhere like Marbella, they've also got safety, but also infrastructure issues that nothing works properly. Bali is basically a third world country, very, very similar to Thailand. Australia has absolutely insane tax laws, and also the time zone is completely impractical for most people, and is on the opposite side of the world. So throughout this video, there's been some things that are negative, there's a lot of things that are positives. In my opinion, Dubai is the best place in the world, in particular if you're entrepreneurial, if you want to be successful, if you want a fast-paced environment, and you want to get shit done. And the way you can basically structure your life in Dubai is that, in my opinion, you're either working or you're enjoying yourself. There shouldn't be any BS middle ground. Now, I've gone over a lot of the cons in this video, and if you want to see actually a lot more of the pros, if you check out the other video on screen right now, that will walk you through some of the big benefits of living here, some of the secrets that most people don't realize. If you took value from this, smash the like button, hit subscribe, comment any questions below, and we'll see you next video very soon.